Skateboarding to me is really a freedom type sport. It's not so much about winning, losing. It's something you can do competitively, you can do it with your friends, you can do it by yourself. Skateboarding is not so defined like other sports where you have to play it on a field or you have to do it in a swimming pool. You're not keeping points like tennis, It's not like you get home and go, oh, I lost today, or, there's just getting out and doing it. You can go out and do it in front of other people where people are watching you and enjoying what you're doing. You can do it with your two friends who you've skateboarded with for years and learn tricks back and forth and give each other pointers. Or you can just go solo, just you, just your skateboard, go out to that curb or that set of stairs and jump up and down it a few times and learn the new trick. There's so many different ways to appreciate skateboarding by that individual. It makes it accessible and desirable and a way to recreate and express yourself that a lot of other sports don't allow. If you're not going to be out playing baseball with 9 other people on a field against another team of 9 people, which takes a lot of organization and practices and somebody's often sitting on the bench with that. With skateboarding, you go out, you do it, you go home, and you just enjoy it for what it was. Skateboarding became really popular in the early to mid 70s in California. One of my neighbors got a toy skateboard about 1971. It was really crummy. We took my sister's roller skates, ripped the wheels off of them, nailed them to a board, and I had a skateboard, my neighbor had a skateboard. We'd roll around the neighborhood, skateboard a little bit. That was how we got started. When it comes to all the individual parts and pieces of skateboards, of course there's the wheels. Inside the wheels, each wheel has 2 bearings. The bearings are then mounted on the axle of the skateboard, which we call the truck, kind of axle housing and turning mechanism of the skateboard. That's then mounted on a wooden platform that we're going to call the deck. And on top of the deck is normally some sort of adhesive sandpaper or traction improvement so that your feet stay on the board better. In general, wheels, bearings, trucks, deck, and grip tape. The real gist of skateboarding is that it turns when you lean on it. And the truck portion of the skateboard has some rubber bushings mounted inside of it that provide a turning sensation whenever you lean on it. That turning ability can be adjusted by putting different bushings in there and by turning a bolt with more tension on that kingpin, which then puts pressure on the bushings. Now that is what provides the turning ability of a skateboard. Once you can roll and turn on it, then you can start doing different tricks by bouncing the tail or nose off the ground. That's what's referred to as an ollie, and that's kind of the basis of all the modern tricks of today, where you whack the tail off the ground, and as the board comes up, it's then manipulated by the feet to spin or flip or twist, and then re-land on the board and ride away. A lot of the reputation of skateboarders has been undeserved. Skateboarders may dress differently or have different hairstyles and be more individualist. And for that reason, a lot of people think they're rebels or problem kids or something like that. But really, these skateboarders hone their sport and put as much into it and practice and study it on the internet, read books, magazines, that sort of thing, as any baseball player that's in Little League and aspires to be a pro baseball player, or football player who's in the organized football leagues or playing in high school. The skateboarders practice it, do it, live it as much as any other athletes. They just don't have a uniform. They don't have a set practice time after school where they have to show up and run sprints. It's less regimented and less structured, but that's the way skateboarding is. It's more of a free form art sport combination. It's not so understood by people that don't do it, how hard it is, how much that skater puts into it, and how much they get out of it. just like any sport, you put a lot into it, you get a lot out. Skateboarders really get a lot of self-satisfaction, self-confidence, character building out of skateboarding, as baseball players do on a baseball field or football players do on a football field. The tricks involved with skateboarding have a lot of elaborate names. They normally come from the person who invented the trick. So if you made up a trick, you normally have the right or claim to be able to call it whatever you want. The ollie, which is the most important trick that was done by a guy named Alan Gelfand, ollie was his nickname, that became the name of the trick, the ollie. And from that trick, most of the other modern skateboard tricks have then developed from. As soon as you learn how to ollie, then you can start doing the kick flips and spins and tricks that are so common today. In the 70s, there was nobody ollieing and doing all those tricks at all. It was just kind of riding and rolling and maybe people starting to skate in ditches and pools. But the ollie wasn't something that was done until the 80s and 90s. But now that's the basis of all the modern tricks that you see today. Skateboarding encompasses more than just the trick skateboarding that is very popular. There's longboarding, which will have a longer board with bigger wheels, where you're just traveling or going down hills, really not trick oriented at all, but just rolling and cruising, and maybe speeds up to 30 or 40 miles an hour with those boards if you really want to do that down hills. There's also slalom, which is taking a smaller board but still with the soft wheels and tightly turning in between cones, a lot like the way skiers do slalom. Then there's other types of trick riding where you're riding on big ramps and pools and deep things. And those applications, you're looking for a board that is light but is a little bit bigger than the lightest trick boards. Those boards will tend to put a slightly bigger wheel on and a slightly wider truck and a slightly wider width of deck so that there's a little more room for your feet. In Knoxville in the early 70s, you just couldn't get a good quality skateboard anywhere. Sporting goods stores wouldn't sell them. Toy stores wouldn't sell them. You could buy a skateboard, but it was pretty much a piece of junk. A couple of shops started selling skateboards that were pro quality, California style, expensive too. Nature's Pantry health food store on Cumberland Avenue, and then a small shop opened called Skateboard Specialist off Kingston Pike in the Bearden area. Soon after that, skate parks started opening in Knoxville, and Orange Wave Skate Park in West Knoxville on Kingston Pike, Rainbow Rapids Skate Park, Walker Springs exit here in West Knoxville too. And then also in South Knoxville, there was a skate park called Super Bowl on Chapman Highway. And even in Maryville had a concrete skate park too. All these skate parks were concrete, big bowls, banks, all this kind of stuff. They all had pro shops where you could just walk in, buy a skateboard, pick out some knee pads, elbow pads, a helmet, and go right out and start skating. Skateboarding in the late 70s was kind of a fad-like thing where it was wildly popular. By the early 80s, all those skate parks had gone out of business. Skateboarding was not very popular, not just in Knoxville and in this area, but nationwide. It just kind of went out of favor as a fad goes. Skate parks across the country went out of business. Very few skate parks remained open during the mid-80s. There wasn't a resurgence of skateboarding on a nationwide scale and more skate parks and that sort of thing until, well, really the mid-90s when public facilities started opening up, where unfortunately you'd have kids skating in places where they weren't really wanted. You'd skate in the front of the grocery store or in front of the post office and get chased off. And there was enough skaters at that time where the parks departments of many local cities and towns decided, let's put in a facility where, one, it'd get these kids off the streets and out of the post office parking lot and the grocery store parking lot, and two, it would provide a safe place for them to skate. Here in Knoxville, we do have great skate parks put in at Tyson Park, Concord Park, in North Knoxville and Fountain City, and also next to Powell High School is a county park that has a skateboard facility. A lot of kids that don't fit into baseball or soccer or other team sports, more individualists that may not have a group to play with on those other sports, can find a skateboard and a place to skateboard and enjoy a recreation and a sport that they might not ever be able to enjoy without a skateboard. You know, with baseball, you got to have 8 other people besides yourself to make a team, and you got to have another team to play against. With soccer, you got to have 2 teams and a big, huge field to play. With skateboarding, if you've got a little bit of sidewalk, a little bit of asphalt, and a skateboard, 4 wheels, piece of wood, and the axles holding it together, you're skateboarding, and you can enjoy it, start to roll, hone your skills, do tricks, and enjoy skateboarding for what it is. Not necessarily a sport where you're winning and losing and people are keeping score and there's a timer, but more of a something that you can enjoy and build upon and commit to yourself to becoming a better skateboarder and becoming more skilled. And maybe one day you might be a pro and make money at it. But you know, if you never ever be pro or never make a dime, at least it's something that you know you enjoy, go out and do, and have fun, get together with your friends, and enjoy skateboarding for what it is. With skateboarding rules, there's not a lot of you've got to do this or got to do that, but people at skate parks certainly want to allow other skaters their turn to skate, get out of the way when they need to, give everybody else a little elbow room, respect everybody else there in whatever way that is. A lot of people who feel that once you're on a skateboard, your age doesn't really matter too much and that you're all out there together and doing it. And you'll see young skaters who are very skilled and older skaters that maybe aren't so skilled, but everybody is skating together, having a good time. You know, in baseball leagues, it's always by age division. In high school, it's what high school you're going to is who you play for. With skateboarding, you just go out and do it, whether you're with your friends or your neighbors, some people that are older or younger, just so long as you're enjoying it and respecting others that are out there too, it all works out for everybody. Learning to skateboard is something you need to take step by step. And just getting the basics down of learning how to roll on a skateboard in a safe way, probably using a helmet, is a good idea. And getting in a place to learn is important too. You don't want to be in any place where you're going to get run over, that's inherently dangerous, where you're going to fall down and get cut on glass or anything like that. You need to find a safe place where, 1, skateboarding is permitted, and 2, you can get your skills down without injuring yourself. After you get the basics down of rolling and basic turns, then you can start doing tricks. It's kind of like math in that you start with addition and subtraction, you learn multiplication and division, and before you know it, you can do calculus. And all these pros that, you know, do all these great tricks on TV, on the X Games, whatever, they all started same as everybody else, just rolling around in a parking lot or in their driveway, just getting the basics down, and then built off of that. You know, skateboarding is not for everybody, but if you are inclined to try it out, the first type of skateboard to get would probably be a trick type skateboard that is not extremely hard to ride. You might go with a slightly softer compound of wheel, something that's not too expensive, and just try it out and see whether you like it. Get the basics down of rolling and turning and then start doing tricks. A lot of people will try to do tricks and advanced level skateboarding when they're really not ready for it. And that's something we want you to progress in a, you know, straightforward method of learning the basics, doing a few tricks, then learning more tricks, and then eventually you may go pro and be a great skateboarder, but it's not something you can do on the first day. With skateboarding and some other sports, it's more of a lifelong activity. And a lot of surfers and other activities like that, that can relate to that, you do it in a longer fashion for more of your life than just a few of your teenage years. For that reason, skateboarding is something that's successful to people for a long period of time. Sports don't allow. You know, if you're not going to be out playing baseball with 9 other people on a field against another team of 9 people, you know, which takes a lot of organization and practices and you know, and somebody's often sitting on the bench with that. With skateboarding, you go out, you do it, you go home, and you just enjoy it for what it was. Skateboarding became really popular in the early to mid 70s in California. Skateboarding to me is really a freedom type sport. It's not so much about winning, losing. It's something you can do competitively, you can do it with your friends, you can do it by yourself. Skateboarding is not so defined like other sports where you have to play it on a field or you have to do it in a swimming pool. You're not keeping points like tennis, you know. It's not like you get home and go, oh, I lost today, or, you know, there's just getting out and doing it. You can go out and do it in front of other people where people are watching. Kind of axle housing and turning mechanism of the skateboard. That's then mounted on a wooden platform that we're going to call the deck. And on top of the deck is normally some sort of adhesive sandpaper or traction improvement so that your feet stay on the board better. In general, wheels, bearings, trucks, deck, and grip tape. The real gist of skateboarding is that it turns when you lean on it. And the truck portion of the skateboard has some rubber bushings. My neighbor's got a toy skateboard about 1971. It was really crummy. We took my sister's roller skates, ripped the wheels off of them, nailed them to a board, and I had a skateboard, my neighbor had a skateboard. We'd roll around the neighborhood, skateboard a little bit. That was how we got started. When it comes to all the individual parts and pieces of skateboards, of course there's the wheels. Inside the wheels, each wheel has 2 bearings. The bearings are then mounted on the axle of the skateboard, which we call the truck. You and enjoying what you're doing, you can do it with your 2 friends who you've skateboarded with for years and learn tricks back and forth and give each other pointers. Or you can just go solo, just you, just your skateboard, go out to that curb or that set of stairs and jump up and down it a few times and learn the new trick. There's so many different ways to appreciate skateboarding by that individual. It makes it accessible and desirable and a way to recreate and express yourself that a lot of other